Hello, everyone. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Tonight on America Decides, more firings and layoffs. A federal judge has cleared the way for DOGE. Remember, that's the Department of Government Efficiency, and their cuts to the federal workforce to continue. Probationary workers and staff at the IRS are on the employment chopping block. This as the Defense Department temporarily pauses efforts to let go thousands of civilian employees. This is being paused to review, the Pentagon says, the potential impact that might have on U.S. military readiness. Since President Trump returned to the Oval Office, here are some numbers. More than 200,000 probationary federal workers at more than a dozen agencies have had their roles eliminated, and 75,000 workers have accepted buyouts.
Nobody can hear when you're yelling.
Okay.
If you want the explanation,
no one can hear you
listen.
guys.
We're going to file this under town hall trouble. Georgia Congressman Rich McCormick, he's a Republican, one of the latest lawmakers to face a little bit of discordant music back in their home district. As constituents, now many in that room were progressive voters, lash out over his support for those federal layoffs and potentially looming budget cuts. I want to start tonight with Willie James Inman at the White House and Charlie D'Agata at the Pentagon. Willie, walk us through the administration's current framing of the federal job force reductions.
Hey there, Major. Good to be with you. Well, the White House is framing this as a cost-cutting move despite circumstances that might surround some of these employees, whether or not they had good reviews during their probationary period. Now, it's important to point out the probationary period is about a year or two. It could be a little bit more depending on the government agency and the role. And the latest number of employees to be affected by this includes some 6,000 IRS workers expected to be laid off at the end of this week. Of course, today being the end of the week, the White House says that these IRS employees weren't necessarily, they're not, I should say, the employees that take in your tax returns. They're not pivotal to that tax return process, but still, nonetheless, these are 6,000 people that have been affected and added to the thousands of individuals across the federal government who have been affected by this layoffs, including 243 TSA employees, some of them frontline workers, let go due to their probationary status, but also due to performance issues, the TSA says. So this is a move that the president, DOGE, Elon Musk, who's leading that task force, going about these cuts to downsize the federal government and moving swiftly despite potential blowback and court challenges that could come. Major?
And those court challenges in some instances continue. Some have been resolved to the administration's favor. Some are still hanging out there. Charlie, I want to go to you at the Pentagon. Willie, please stay with us at the White House. So there was references made that DOGE and Elon Musk are heading to the Pentagon, but as I understand it, the pause button was hit today.
Yeah, Major, Elon Musk says, the Defense Secretary Hicks said DOGE is in the House and we welcome them. And I think we've seen those individuals walking around here. There is news to report. This is just moments ago. This morning we woke up, we were thinking about 50,000 people may have been let go within the next week or so. Now that has been scaled back. I'm quoting this directly from the DoD. We expect approximately 5,400 probationary workers will be released, their words, beginning next week as part of this initial effort, after which we will implement a hiring freeze, conduct further analysis of our personnel needs, complying, as always, with applicable laws. And I think what's happened there, Major, it's complicated. You know, I have to quote Secretary Hegseth because he sought to clarify the situation in an address. You may have seen it on social media outlets. They're saying they're having a reevaluation of the workforce, and they're going to try to find redundancies. That's a top to bottom. DOGE is in the House. They're helping with the process to identify those cuts. So there are also those legal considerations, which I think is what they're referring to here. Under Title X, Secretary may not reduce the civilian workforce unless an appropriate analysis is conducted. And that certainly hasn't happened yet. As was explained to me, this is not the kind of place that can turn on a dime. We're talking about a workforce of like 800,000 people, and laying off 50,000 people. That's going to take a look at their performance, and in Hegseth's words, their contributions to the missions will be critical. Again, that hiring freeze is already put in place. And there's also been I need to clarify here, there's been a close-up on these cuts, so-called cuts. It's not the cuts. It's refocusing, his words. It's sort of reallocating. In a memo he referenced in that statement, it's really not where the money is being taken away from, but where it's going. I've got CBS has obtained a copy of that memo. So Southwest border activities, combating transnational criminal organizations. These are the drug gangs, nuclear modernization, Virginia-class submarines. That's a big one that we've been reporting on. Homeland missile defense. The list go on and on. So it's not necessarily cuts, but a reallocating of those funds.
With that very latest information, Charlie, thanks so much. Willie, I want to go back to you at the White House because there was a lively exchange, fair to describe it, between Janet Mills, the Democratic governor of Maine, and President Trump over transgender athletes. I want to play the soundbite between the two and then have you tell us what was it all about.
Your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports, so you better comply, because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding. See you in court. Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one.
Willie, fill us in.
Yeah, this was an interesting but tense moment, and this follows a move by the Maine's Principals Association to effectively allow transgender athletes to continue to play in sports. Now, what state officials are saying here is there's a discrepancy between what the federal government is doing here, the executive order which President Trump signed not too long ago to bar boys who were born as boys who transgendered, trans women, I should say, trans girls, to play in women's sports. And the state law, it's the Maine's Human Rights Act, and that essentially bars discrimination in all facets of life, including education, and in this case, to allow trans people to play in those school sports. And there's this dispute that you saw play out live there on our TV. It played out at the White House during a meeting with a bipartisan group of governors earlier today. And the president is simply saying that you're not going to get any federal funds. That's exactly what the executive order says. If you continue to allow this, you're not going to get those federal funds. But this could potentially play out in court, Major.
And it's already played out this afternoon, Willie, as you probably are aware. The Education Department has already launched an investigation in Maine on this very subject. Willie James Inman, North Lawn of the White House, Charlie D'Agata at the Pentagon. Thanks so very much.